Is it not going on? Can I help? Yeah, you know how to. I can't get the lamp
Hey
on.
Bob, how are you?
Just about happy.
I didn't recognize
So
you.
it's on. Oh, okay, so did you go? Well, no. Oh, boy. Got something going on. We after I'm done here, we can do a few. Get a few chairs in here. Get some more chairs in, hopefully. I just wanted to start out talking about what there's a track that is being put together for for this, and what it's around is making a change within our culture, making a change within our communities, and working with our communities, because if we do not change this culture, we will not change our politic, and we cannot change the politic and to get what needs to be done, because there's so much that has to be done. I don't know if you heard about the hurricane at the North Pole this year. Basically, it hit about 90 miles per hour. It had hurricane in terms of strength, in terms of its the decibels, or I'm not the decibels, but how low it went. It went from Greenland down to almost the tropics as far as big. It dropped the temperature, or raised the temperature in the North Pole to the point where where they put the flag, it's in water. Okay, that's during the summer. This time it hit about 30, I think it was 32 degrees or 31 degrees, and that was a 60-degree change in the amount of temperature that it usually is, which is usually minus 30 up there. So it was 30 degrees above. So we have a lot of work to do, and I would like to introduce Eric. I hope everybody read his bio, because it's just awesome. I highly recommend it. And beyond that, my personal relationship with him, I found him to be very compassionate and understanding. Great guy. I love the guy. So without further ado, please, Eric.
If anybody ever wonders if I'm actually a compassionate person, it's recorded, so. Great. So I would like to, first off, I'm Eric Stephen Upchurch II. I'm a grassroots activist, run a strategic development company, and wear a number of hats in the community. That's me. Really quickly, just so that because of what we're going to get into, it's about building community, so I'd love to get an idea of who's in the room. Could you please, we're going to go around, could you just share your name, the place that you're from, and if you're connected to an organization. If it's a bunch of organizations, just say that. You don't need like a laundry list of everything. We know you're awesome. And we'll start over here.
Hi, I'm Chris Rockwood. I'm from Wauwatosa, Milwaukee County. I'm a Democrat who's run for office 3 times, and also work with Citizen Action in Wisconsin.
I'm George Hagenauer. I'm in transition. I was originally born on the far south side of Chicago, did community work there for 40 years. Moved to rural Wisconsin, was involved in actually doing a lot of organizing in our town and in the local area there, and sold our house in June. My wife is in Michigan, and I'm living in a 6 by 8 foot room in Southwest Madison. And currently I'm working on child care issues, and I've had sort of a gap. I haven't really connected to the community. I'm not certain how long I'm going to be in there. So.
Right. Thank you. So.
I'm Jen Miller, and I'm from Madison, and I'm from Central Wisconsin United Children.
Thank you.
I'm Gloria Castillo, and I'm representing Sustain Day, an organization that works in Madison area, sustainability.
Sustain Day and also is a part of the Council of Communities Interim Steering Committee. We'll hear a little bit about it.
I'm Janet Cole, and I'm the president of the Neighborhood Association in Madison, Los March neighborhood. And I'm Veronica Figueroa, I'm the executive director of Unidos, and Unidos is a state organization where we're located in Fitchburg, Wisconsin, and we work with victims of domestic violence, human trafficking, and sexual assault in the state of Wisconsin, mainly with refugees and Latinos. I'm Heidi Figueroa Vélez. I am originally from Puerto Rico, lived in Madison for a while, and I work for Clinica Latina Journey Mental Health and Child Advocacy Center.
Thank you.
Well, I'm impressed with everyone. I'm just me. I've been involved in family and politics for generations, fighting Bob LaFollette, the whole shebang. Represent anybody but myself.
Right on.
And pardon?
Where do you live, or what neighborhood? Just that.
Oh, by West High School.
Right on.
Yeah, I'll just pass. I have a story I could tell about delivering a child, my own, who is here,
Right on.
but arguing. She's in her 50s. And arguing.
A lot of people in limited time. Let's try to speed it up.
Yep, Rick Stofker. I'm not connected to any organization. I live in Madison.
Right on.
I'm retired from high school, but I've worked and done a lot of work and some of Bright Patch advocacy for students and mental health, as well as just a variety of safety and domestic violence.
Great. I've worked on
Dale Lavelle, Fitchburg, Wisconsin. I'm involved in a variety of volunteer organizations.
Wonderful.
Teresa Crespo from Baraboo, Wisconsin. A group of about 9 of us are trying to fight corruption at our county level. And I sign a lot of them online.
Right on.
Earl Barnes, I'm from Dodgeville and associated with a grassroots group there in Iowa County.
Wonderful. Thanks.
My name is Sandy Dexter. I'm from Caledonia Township, which is a small farming community in Portage, and I am trying to start a group in our area.
I'm Megan Road. I live in Madison, and I'm connected with a group called Lawyers for Good Government, the Wisconsin chapter, which formed after the election. It hasn't done much, but hopefully will.
Right on. Thanks, man.
Bob Nelson, I live in New Glarus. I'm a retired construction worker and a part-time substitute teacher. Hi, I'm Ron Benzel. I live in Middleton, here in this neighborhood. And I wanted to, I guess my primary group would be the Dane County Democratic Party E-Board, the executive board.
Right.
My name is Lynn Person. I'm part of GROW for the Westport, Wanakee area. Worked in environmental issues and have a fair trade business working with flower lines.
I'm Jim Newton, live in Middleton. Meet with retiree union groups, and we're working on retirement security issues.
I'm Carol Kubishevsky. I'm from Middleton, Wisconsin. I'm a retired social worker. I'm a member of an online group called Slowly But Steady Progressives, and I'm a ongoing resistor.
My name is Grace Newton, and I'm also from Middleton.
My name is Judy James. I'm from Dodgeville. I've lived here all my life. I'm also involved with Earl with Grassroots in Iowa County, and my main focus right now is on peace and justice.
I'm Sandy Beeman. I'm from Mineral Point, and I'm also with the Iowa County Grassroots Group active.
I'm Frank Beeman. I'm the writer and the newspaper editor in Minnesota.
I'm Nora Sanders, and I live in Monroe and Chicago part-time, and I'm with the King County Band.
I'm Shannon from Spring Green, and I'm involved with a couple of new groups that are starting in the area.
George Ferreter, I'm a village trustee in the village of Doylestown in central Columbia County. I ran for state assembly twice, and I'm currently the chairman of the Columbia County Democratic Party.
I'm Betty Potasic from Madison.
And I'm Sue Springman from Stoughton, and involved in local issues.
David Williams, originally from Stoughton 50 years ago. I'm in the Madison Industrial Workers of the World and the Fairman Forum. And I'm part of the discussion this afternoon in time slot 3 on direct action.
Hi, I'm Mark Fuller. I'm involved with several organizations in Gainesville and Lowell. everyone. My name is Maya. That was my mom. I'm also from Madison. I'm a student right now. Not part of any major organizations, but well, WTA Wisconsin Association and I do volunteer work as well.
Morning, I'm Karen Pope, recently retired educator, moved to Madison, working with Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, 100-year-old women's advocacy organization, 350 Madison Divest.
My name is Bruce Green. I'm from Madison. I'm trying to get that retired status. I'm a free agent. I've done a lot of different things. What attracted me to this particular session was the words competition and collaborative. We're climbing all over the top of each other, not accomplishing anything, despite tremendous interest and abilities in the room. And to put that into a collaborative approach where we share our goals is just really important.
Exactly, exactly.
Hi, I'm Abigail Lowry. I live in DeForest, Wisconsin. I'm a member of DeForest Windsor Area Grassroots, and I'm currently running for DeForest Village Board.
Right on. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, good amount of people. Good. Powerful, powerful, powerful. So, part of the reason why I do that is to get a sense for who's in the room and really who you are. And who you are in a couple of different dimensions. One, who the people, the individuals are that are here so that you know who you're talking to, who you're connecting with, but also who you are in the sense of who we are. And there's a field of study that looks at iterations of life, and I promise this makes sense. There's a connection here. That looks at iterations of life, and if you think about it, your body is made up of things that are alive, and they're all like running around, breathing, talking to each other. Hey, you got that? You need some help? And so here we are, also living cells of a larger organism, but our thinking has been opposite of that, kind of like a paraplegic or some kind of coma on a. If our cities were people, we would be a very unhealthy one, a very dysfunctional one. Maybe there's some mental wellness challenges. Who knows? But as we start to imagine what holistic and true connectivity looks like, the communities that do this well begin to exhibit a sort of personality, if you will, and a new iteration of existence of life. And so, wouldn't it be great if the right hand could talk to the left? If the people that are doing things at the head or at the foot actually knew what was in agreement and could go in a direction. Right now we got folks that might be a hand, a foot, or whatever, and we're all trying to go every which way, and like the gentleman said, we're not getting anywhere. And so collective impact, collaborative impact, weighted direct democracy are tools that we feel will help us get there. For whatever reason, this projector isn't projecting what's on the screen here, so we're going to use...
Imagination.
Yeah, we're going to use some... Oh, great. Dry erase markers. This is all we need.
Always a little bit late.
This is all we need. So, what the Council of Communities does is it elevates the voice of those most impacted in three key tracks. And the reason for this is because, like we said earlier, like I just said to the group earlier, is you know, we have so many different organizing efforts, and sometimes we see some hint, some semblance of success, but if there isn't real community power there, there's always a back door, always another way to the same destination, and you see special interests or, you know, powerful, wealthy, still getting exactly what it is that they set out to do anyway, regardless of the regardless of the needs of those most impacted. The other part, Madison specifically is talking about medicine. We have 4,400 nonprofits in Madison. It's wonderful, right? I mean, so many, we have literally thousands of organizations, not just people, thousands of organizations coming together to do good work. We have the highest category of nonprofits in the state of Wisconsin. We also have the worst when it comes to Latinx. Those two things don't match up. You got the most nonprofits, you get worse racial disparities. So what's happening here, and the theory goes that these great people that really want to do good work are not being led by those that are most impacted by what that work hopes to solve. So how do we elevate that voice? The other part is that all of these great people are competing for the same funds. So they're working against each other to reach the same goals. And when we did that on the basketball court, they said, hey man, same team, slow down. We have the same goal. So how do we get on the same team? What's the function for that?
That's a smart board, so I don't think the dry erase markers are gonna.
Are you sure?
Can I see, can I just
Yeah.
Those
What's this?
pens are like digitally connected to the computer sensor.
Can I try this real quick?
Yeah, if you, it's probably a display setting where you
Just have to put the input.
if you, the display setting, so it's probably on like dual display and not single.
You gotta actually turn the whiteboard on. There's a remote someplace.
That made it go.
Progress. Now pick up that green marker, and if that lights up, and
Well, that's connected to that computer. This is a separate thing.
I don't remember what he said. So we're gonna improvise, folks. We're gonna use this screen over here. Because it's easier. And we won't worry about this. And then, Gloria, can I ask you to readjust their stand here? if you would?
Yeah.
Okay. You're right. So, we got a lot of First track is voices. The second track is informing.
I'm just embarrassed.
And the third track is organizing. And what time are we out of here?
11:45.
Okay, a little bit. So I'm gonna rush through this. Then I'm gonna encourage you to have a conversation with your neighbor, and we're gonna jot some notes down as quickly as possible. So the first track, voicing. What is it? Voicing is the pure, unadulterated voice of the community. So that is, I mean, your grassroots door knocking, your online surveys, your in-person surveys, tabling at events with a piece of paper that says, hey, how can you answer these two key questions? And those key questions are, what is it that you need? And what do you need to see change? Powerful, powerful questions. What is it that you need? What is it that you want to see change? Real quick, can we get some examples really, really quick? What is it that you need? What do you want to see change? Popcorn. Somebody. No needs?
Voter turnout.
Voter turnout. Okay.
The
What do
end
you
of
want?
gerrymandering.
The end of gerrymandering. One more.
Young people in this room.
Equitable child care funding.
Equitable child care funding. Okay, great. So we have needs that are coming through the pipeline. Okay. This is really just a transparent way for us to see and hear what folks are saying. Now, what makes this magical is if it's widely adopted, it's almost like listening to yourself. This is like a meditation, if you will. Like, we didn't have time to do it, but maybe next time we will. Informing. Informing is the same thing as voicing. So that's doing the door knocking, we have a tool where you can text answers to survey questions. So one of the issues with civic engagement is that not everybody can make it to the town hall meeting. Not everybody has internet access. Not everybody has a phone. But everybody is a person that is somewhere at one point or another. Maybe they go to a store. Maybe they have a place where they're staying, and that door gets knocked off, and we ask these questions. So in community engagement, to understand what is it that you need, you want to see change. Child affordable health care, end of gerrymandering, etc. Informing is the same as voicing, except it's information that supports why it is that you feel like that's a need. So the example that I like to use is in the Allied Drive community in Madison, they have voiced that they need healthy food access. They need a grocery store there. The information that would support that is, go figure, healthy communities have grocery stores. You know, it's kind of one of those things that people need, they need to eat. So informing is where we invite the community, again, those that are most impacted, to say, hey, why is it that this is a need? And here's someone who would share via uploading or via mail a piece of information, whatever they deemed as information. It could be a video, a documentary, it could be a meme, a little picture with some words on it. It could be a study that supports what they voiced. So I'm just going to write supports here. The third track is where the community at large raises agreement or disagreement on the first two tracks. So let's say it's important to me that Allied Drive gets its grocery store. I live in Madison, so I'm kind of more connected to that community than folks here that aren't living in Madison. And I say Allied Drive needs its grocery store because the community has grocery stores, and you all get to say, well, I don't know. I don't know about Allied Drive. I don't know Allied Drive. I don't think they need a grocery store. They just, there's food somewhere nearby. They can walk, whatever. Or some of you are like, I agree. Allied Drive needs their grocery store. So the community raises emphasis, agreement, or disagreement on the first two tracks. And what that does is elevate the priorities of the community. Here's where you start to see the mind of the community come to focus, come into clarity, where you see priorities. What is it that we're really prioritizing? You can tell based on how many people are saying, yeah, Allied needs their grocery store, and I agree that this piece of information supports that. The magic element here is that it's focused on those most impacted. So what does that mean? I'm a really lazy writer, so eventually my letters kind of slur together. We're going good so far. The most impacted, that's folks that are living in the Allied Drive community. That's folks that are living in the area or that represent the community. So, for instance, we need better support for women voters. Me personally, I shouldn't be able to vote. You know what I mean? Someone that does not live in Allied Drive shouldn't be able to decide whether or not Allied Drive gets their grocery store. We need to be able to listen very clearly to Allied Drive. And so here, that elevation of priorities is weighted by those most impacted. What this creates is a list of priorities. And then from those priorities, we invite the same community organizations that are in this room, the 4,400 that are a part of Madison. We invite them to organize into issue committees. Bear with me. Issue committees. Just come, these committees. And they come up with a plan. And then that plan goes right back to the beginning of this track here, where now we're focusing on, okay, this committee around Allied Grocery Store came up with this plan to get Allied Drive their grocery store. So, Allied Drive folks, what is it that you need to see change in this plan? What did you want out of this plan? And then from here, what kind of information supports that? And then from here, we organize a plan that's blessed by the community, led by the community, that should work because it's led by those most impacted. So, I just ran through some revolutionary stuff. It's very much so related to the participatory processes that have happened all around the world. There's some few differences, but essentially 3 tracks: voicing, informing, and organizing, that distill the mind of the community, the priorities of the community, and then we invite collaboration to build a plan that then is vetted through those that are most impacted using the same 3 tracks. So, we have 10 minutes. What I'd like to invite you all to do here is first, so in order, where we're at right now really quickly, is we've got about 300 or so organizations that want to see something like this happen. Some of them are government related, some of them are grassroots like what we're doing, some of them are very established with big budgets and in order to make something like this work, we have to vet this plan, this process of these 3 tracks through the community. And so that's what this is. We're not going to get all the way through it right now, so I encourage you all to go to CouncilofCommunities.com and send an email of where you think there are holes in this process. The things, what does voicing need to look like for you? What does informing need to look like for you? And how can this be better? If we can get the community to voice their needs with respect to something that we hope will address those needs, then maybe we can build something collaboratively that will actually be used and that will actually work. So in the next 5 minutes, I'll invite you to discuss with your neighbor where you see pitfalls here. And I do apologize for the rush. I feel like I should open it up for questions really quickly about this, and then you did after that, do some popcorning on where we can make this better, what's beneficial, where we can make it better.
Are you talking about pitfalls in this process?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would say with this particular project, you need to figure out how to integrate outside markets. That in that community, because I lived just west of there for years in the rural part, that community, your problem is that the people coming in from the rural areas turn to the left, never to the right. Mm-hmm. And so figuring out, and the community doesn't have a lot of resources. So figuring out market structures to draw those resources in, i.e. people to buy there in addition to the community, is something I think is useful to think about.
Thank you for that. So please keep them brief, folks. Let's get a few more. I saw a hand up around here somewhere.
Go ahead.
So there's no organization at this time, there's no council of communities at this time, or how far along are you?
Great question. So the 300 or so organizations have just said, we want to be a part of making this a reality. A small pocket of those organizations have been meeting regularly, called the Interim Steering Committee. And that group is developing the process of community engagement, where we'll invite that 300 or so to take this process and vet it with their constituents. And so it's being built, but it's a long process since it has to be collaborative with the community. And we have to emphasize those most impacted.
Are those 300 listed in your website?
Not all of them. Some of them are listed at the bottom, but that's something for a volunteer could really help us get to.
Follow-up question: have you made any contacts with local political parties? Democratic Party, the Republican, Green, whatever.
So mostly city elected officials and county elected officials.
Those are nonpartisan, please.
Nonpartisan, right. No direct representation from a Democratic or Republican.
I'd like to volunteer to connect up with you.
Right on. Best way to connect, visit the website. At the bottom, there's a list for you to put your email address, CouncilofCommunities.com, and that's Council, C-I-L. One more question, and then we'll have a short talk with our
I just have a quick thing. I mean, it's been in part of so many different committees trying to work with the most impacted communities.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this discussion happens when the people who get this subject line of the most impacted collage with the ones that don't get it. So how do we bring those two together is my question. When the community, there is that diversity, but there's people that don't get who are the most impacted.
Mm-hmm.
Or might get it, but their own agendas get in their way.
Okay, very good question. So I'll start it off by saying that I don't have that answer. I cannot answer that question. If I were to answer that question, I would duplicate the same thing that most well-meaning people in that group of 4,400 do, in saying that, hey, I have the answer to that. So that is part of what we're building into the community engagement process, where we're asking folks to deliberate on what does it mean to be the most impacted. That's the first part of that. The second part is that if you can convince someone that this tool will help them as well, and their support of that tool will help them as well, then there's a kind of a selfish instinct that gets them to cooperate with the process they're in. And so not getting it is kind of a part of the challenge, and it's also a part of the reason why we go through this so that I don't have to get why Allied Drive needs their grocery store. They said they need it, and that is what it is, you know. But if as a person who doesn't get it, I know that this process is something that will give me agency, and because it gives me agency, it'll also give someone else agency. So there's like kind of a mutual beneficial thing going on.
So I'm a little confused about who's driving this process. I mean, where does it start? Does it start with the people in that community, or does it start with the organizations going to that community and saying, why can we do that? I mean, who drives this process?
Wonderful, wonderful question. What's your name?
Nora.
Nora, beautiful question, Nora. So it has to be driven by the individual. Someone asked if this was an organization. We don't want to think of this as a traditional organization with 501c status, 501c3 status, and a board and all of that. We want to think of it as an action, if you will. And those that are participating are the ones that are saying, hey, this is what I need, this is information, and raising emphasis and agreement on that. And then joining an issue committee to solve that need, if you will. So it's more of a participation, and it does start with that group of, that growing group of, I'm pointing here, but that's not it, the growing group of 300 or so that are going to start to vet this process. And they'll be early adopters and get to the voice of those that are the people that are on the ground.
On your website, are there experience, are the collective
Hold on one quick
experience of other
second.
people?
We've got a question here. She's had her hand up for a little while.
Thanks. Have you been looking on, most organizations have a planning process, or 2 or 3, or maybe none. But I worked as a bureaucrat for lots of years, and they got tired of all these new planning processes coming through. So my question is, how do you see this integrating with existing organizational planning process and building off of that, or identifying holes in it so that it's not just something that stands separate and doesn't work with existing structures?
Very important question. The goal with something like this, so the first part is that all the organizations that we can get our hands on are invited to collaborate on an issue that makes sense to them. So for instance, the issue of the Allied grocery store, we might see someone like the Allied Community Co-op that's in that community. Also the YWCA maybe for racial disparities, ending racism, maybe Fendorf and Wolf Paving to help build the thing in the parking lot. So we invite the organizations, but even though they have their own plans, how can we come together to build a plan that solves this issue in a way that's led by those most impacted? So we're making that invitation. The other part with local government is my conversations and our conversations with local government is to help get this thing real teeth, so that it's something that is almost adhered to when we're talking about budget season, when we're talking about different policies. And this becomes a tool for elected officials to be able to clearly see what the community is saying it needs. It also is kind of a check and a balance for us, because it allows us to clearly see that, hey, if Allied Community is saying this thing, and this politician over there is saying that thing, and those things don't mesh up, why? Why is that? And in a way, it kind of reveals special interests. And if you're not aligned with the people, then who are you aligned with? So we're at time. What would be most beneficial at this point, if first off, do any of you see potential in something like this? Right on. The goal here is that this becomes something that local government believes, and that we grow iterations of this in other cities and other states, and begin to imagine if we're canvassing for issues and not candidates. No knock on specific candidates, but it's not fair to expect one person to know the needs and the intricacies of my life, particularly, let alone thousands of others. What if we could get rid of our fear of elections and start to really hear what the people need in a concrete and transparent way? If you want to give feedback on this process, please go to CouncilofCommunities.com. You can send an email to info@councilofcommunities.com and just, hey, how is this looking to you? what needs to change here?
I think you have until 11:45.
Really?
That's what the schedule says.
What?
Yeah.
11:45.
That's what I said. Yeah, I did see
Yeah.
that.
Great, great.
So you have
This is
50 more
perfect.
minutes.
So we're gonna, please.
Okay, well, I want to comment on the example you're using, because
Sure.
I live in Pittsburgh, and I was considering running for Alder, and this was on my list of what I wanted, was a grocery store for that area,
Yeah.
and that the person who is running now also has this list. So I would really encourage him being brought into that process. And I think that in speaking with people in that area, a lot of us are greatly concerned about the isolation in that community, that we have we have neighborhoods that are very dense and don't have equal access to resources, certainly including the grocery store. So there, I could see something like this as a best practice, not only for nonprofits, but
Right.
certainly for government representatives.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So-
Thank you for that. We're gonna have a short talk with I skipped you over, man, I apologize. Just wanted to respect that.
My question is, in developing this, from what I understood, you said this has happened in other areas of the country, maybe in other countries. Is there a place on your website where the collected experiences and learning, what people have learned in going through this process is posted?
No, but there should be. We know of examples all over the world that have done, so participatory budgeting is a process. It's not quite like this, but it does invite the community's input in a very real way, and it's kind of democratic. There was a participatory process that did a little bit more than budgeting for the local area, and it focused on policies. And I want to say that was in it was a Latin American country that it's escaping me right now. But I do have that, and I can post that to the blog if folks are interested. I'm just going to write collective wisdom on the website. So, I'm sure your wheels are turning. Please turn to your neighbor. If you don't have a neighbor, there's some in here. But what we're discussing here is, really quick folks, what we're discussing is what's the potential here, what needs to change, and just what are your initial reactions, how does you play a role? An organic discussion will come back and do some sharing to the group in about 5 minutes. Thank you. All right, folks. Okay.
He's too soft-spoken, I'm not.
Okay, good discussion.
Pretty done. Have to revise it.
About some change in the world type stuff.
And tie it up.
So let us
That's a short version.
hear your initial feedback.
And finding groups that I'm involved in. The big challenge that we have is the communication and how to directly communicate with the range of people that we're trying to. Like I was saying to these guys, I know there's complaints about younger folks not being here at this meeting, and I wonder if it's a matter of a communication directness, that isn't, that the communication isn't getting to the younger folks because it's not being provided in a means that is accessible to them.
Your communications model may need to conform to what your issue is, or what the nature of the community is, or demographic.
And offering I don't know if matrix is the right word, but I would love to see this group also be able to offer those tools for effective communication to the groups that they're trying to engage across all parts of these steps.
I see. Great feedback. Thank you.
Well, Mark and I were kind of thinking, at first I thought this was vague, but then we were thinking that it could walk on two legs. On the one hand, you could have clusters of organizations working on certain issues, okay, coming together and having representatives go to a council of groups working on other issues, but also geographically from the neighborhood and workplace level up, you could have, another structure. And if it effectively educated and mobilized people and brought them together, it would be a huge counterweight to what is presently corporate-dominated government.
Right.
It could represent a revolutionary challenge.
So we have just a couple of more minutes, and I think a bell's going to go off, right?
Yep, the cowbell. You'll hear cowbell in Wisconsin.
So right on, exactly that. And the idea here is that we have collaboration and communication across those things. That what is a community? You know what I mean? Is it geographical? Is it racial? Is it gender? Is it sex? What is it? And so figuring out, is it the place that you work? Is it your organization? Those things are communities, and if we can have iterations of this process in those groups, perhaps not only they would function in a way that's very clear and transparent, but we might be able to very more clearly communicate with them. Ideally, at the full iteration of this process, you have one place for everyone to go to voice their needs, to become informed, to get involved in the solution.
Anybody have any questions?
What roadblocks are you coming up against with this?
Time. There is, we went through this process to do our purpose statement and to do the processes for the interim steering committee that will engage the community, and that took quite a bit of time. And because things are so urgent, we're trying to figure out how can we move swiftly, but still elevating the voice of those most impacted, and there's a balance that has to be struck there.
I just want to talk a little bit about how we are not necessarily creating something completely new, but how, for example, in Sustainable, we're using this framework and this way of thinking that is revolutionary in our own programming. So we use it as a guiding lens. So when we're working with the communities and we're thinking about, okay, this is an issue, like clean water is an issue of environmental justice. So is that your need? And let's voice that. Let's voice that together. Is that coming from you, or is that coming from us, or from the grants? Because sometimes it's like you have these granting organizations that they say this is what the only things we're gonna give you money for. So we put that on the community, and at the end, that's not what they need. What they need is a grocery store. So that's an example of how this particular process will help an organization like us that have been working in Madison for 20 years, how sustainability that seems like, well, what an environmental organization has, how can an environmental organization use something like this if it seems like it's more democracy and weighted democracy, and we use it like that? Because we're still interacting with communities all the time, and our communities are not just our white communities in Madison, but our Latino communities, our African American communities, our Hmong communities. So voicing that and recognizing that they're also different, that they also have difference among them. They're communities of color, but they also have their own needs. So in voicing that, informing, and then organizing in a way that really truly address those needs, and then we're working in collaboration with them in a partnership where we're both learning from each other. So that's the way that we're looking at it right now, and it's evolving as we go through, because it's not just one step. It's dynamic. So that's an example for us.
Thank you so much.
We are after time, so I'm afraid someone tipped our cow. So I just wanted to say a couple things. One is to remind you to
Bob,
do your...
real quick,
Okay, go ahead.
before folks get up and go. If you didn't catch the website, folks, it's CouncilofCommunities.com.
Write it on the board.
Yeah, good idea. All right,
And you go out to the Wisconsin Grassroots Network page. We will be posting all of the different groups so you can see and this and so on. You have an evaluation in your back of your pamphlet. If you would fill that out and turn it in at the desk afterwards, at the front. Also, if you don't need your, there it is. Also, if you need your, if you don't need your green packet, we'd love you to recycle it so we can use it next year and not buy new ones. And thank Eric. Yeah. Woo!
What is the document that I'm looking
So you choose one of the one you want.
They never marketed all the where there's more market, yeah.